Hello and welcome. I'm Orna Ross, Irish indie author, director of the Alliance of Independent Authors and the Indie Author Fringe. And you are watching one of the rough cuts for the Go Creative show. This is a show about creative writing, creative publishing and creative living, which airs every Sunday. And this is episode 3 and all about creative living. You can watch the full episode by subscribing here on YouTube, and it's also available as a podcast on iTunes and on Stitcher. So we're talking about creative living today, and last week we were looking at creative challenge, and I said that we'd go into the 3 principles of creative living that everybody needs to know if you are interested in becoming a creativist, in approaching life from a creative perspective, in being more creative, in accessing your own powerful, innate creative potential. So here we are. And those 3 principles, let's talk a little bit about those first of all. They are lightening up, letting go, and leaping in. They are the 3 things you need to do and need to balance. Creative living is all about balance and integration. It can seem very paradoxical, but actually when you're in balance, it all just flows and you don't even have to do very much. You just need to turn up and be open and allow the flow to happen. So lightening up is really about creative play, and letting go is really about creative rest, and leaping in is really about creative work. And this is the difference, this is the core difference between approaching life with a creative perspective and approaching life with a more conventional perspective, whether we're talking about work or life dilemmas, the kinds of challenges we were talking about last week. Whatever we're talking about, it's always the same creative process at play, whether we're talking about the challenges of writing a book or whether we're talking about the challenges of raising a family. It's exactly the same once we understand what we're doing. So the thing about it is, of course, that we've all been raised in an education system and are possibly working in workplaces that favour a completely different sort of approach, the conventional approach. And the conventional conceptual approach tends to push down on work. It's all about work. And the difference with the creative approach is that it's also all about play, and also all about understanding the role that rest plays in our lives as well and accessing that. So just to talk a tiny bit today about these 3 different aspects. I'm here in my workout gear and just back from a mindful walk around my local park at the end of the road, and I've done that for a reason, because it's really important when we're talking about creative living to realize that it begins with the body. Not a lot of people know that I actually started life and my working life more or less the point at which I think of my working life having begun. I did have 18 months in a cubicle that I prefer to kind of just forget about, but I knew I wanted to be a writer, and I left that job, and I knew I also would need to do something to support that ambition, because I knew I wasn't going to earn money from that anytime quickly. And at the time when I made that decision, it's a very long time ago, there was a form of exercise in vogue called aerobics, and I got into that and I loved it. I taught it for a few years, and it was a very nice kind of balance with building a writing career. And I started to write articles and in time books about fitness matters, and that's actually how I learned. That was my training as a writer, even though writing fiction and poetry was ultimately what I wanted to do and what I do now. I got a very good training in health journalism, actually. So the reason, again, I'm talking about that is you must, if you're interested in this whole creative approach to life, you must understand how fundamental body and the breath are to the creative experience. And that starts with creative play, with the whole idea of kind of lightening up and using your body and getting out there. And the difference between, again, the sort of exercise that we do and the approach to exercise that we take is the core book about this in the Go Creative series will be called Effortless Exercise. So we're not talking here about competitive sport, absolutely not. It's the complete opposite to that. It is the kind of exercise that, first of all, you really enjoy doing it. So it's fun. And it's kind of probably you on your own. You may be in a group. So, I mean, the prototype is possibly yoga, where you're in a group, but you are actually, it's you and your body is the relationship, is the connection. It's not about running a race or beating a personal best or anything like that. It's really just about establishing that mindful connection to the moment. And when you're in your body, you've got to be mindful. That state of creative presence that we were talking about last week, the create state, is the state of creative presence. And that is a body-based state. When you're in your body and you're aware of that, you're in the moment. It's not possible not to be. And the key to it all, of course, is the breath. The breathing in and the breathing out, the sort of connection between the outer world and the inner world. And inspiration has two meanings. It means, as we know, creative inspiration, the aha moment, the insight, you know, that wonderful sort of thing that we're all looking for and we're all trying to induce and have. But inspiration, and it's not a coincidence, also means breathing in. And the epitome of the create state really is to say, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. And that really is it, that you have it there. Whatever I'm doing, I know I'm doing it. Brushing my teeth, going for a walk, whatever it is, I am fully there in my body and present for it. That is the create state. It's from there that the font opens and the flow happens. So all very well, and not always, you know, easy to understand, very simple to do, but not always easy to do. And, you know, we discussed a bit about that last week, and we will go on discussing that because that challenge is always there. It doesn't go away, and it's something that you need to constantly reconnect with. Key to it, as I said, is creative play. And it is a good idea as a creativist to formalize one sort of hour or two a week that is purely about creative play for you, however you define that, whatever is your idea of fun, whatever you love to do most, and that engages you in that sort of state where you are completely yourself, you are completely enjoying yourself, and you are completely at ease. We call that the create date, and there are lots of examples on ornaross.com, and we will continue to kind of develop that as we go through this show, this Go Creative series, and everywhere really, because creative play is, as I said, absolutely, you know, the absolute core of it. So creative rest then is that moment where you stop thinking, where you actually let go of thought. And that can be as short as a couple of seconds. It can be the length of one breath or 3 breaths, which is something you can do kind of regularly throughout the day. It's all about letting go, just letting go of thought. So you don't try to stop thought, because then you've added effort in, and then you're thinking about thought, and the next thing you know, you're chasing your thoughts around the place and you're thinking more than ever. It's not that kind of motion. It's very much about just letting go. And we call that in the Go Creative series inspiration meditation. And as I said, a meditation can be a moment, and you know, that moment of inspiration meditation can be literally just a couple of breaths, but there is a formal inspiration meditation method, a japa method of meditation, which uses sound and the silent space between the sounds as the focus of attention. Because meditation, how it works is it's kind of paradoxical. It's by putting your attention on something other than your thoughts. It's that focus that takes you away from your thought that actually allows everything to fall away. So in order for there to be nothing, first there needs to be something. So you need to concentration and focus. Creative concentration and focus is always creative concentration and focus on something. Even if that something is the blank black space in your mind when you close your eyes, that is your point of attention. And it actually doesn't matter that much what that point of attention is. So we explore and experiment and look at lots of different ways that you can arrive in that place, because different people arrive there in very different ways. So there is no one way to do this. There is your way, and it takes a little while for you to find that sometimes, and sometimes you just fall right into it. But the whole point is those two words, exploration, experiment, they are at the heart of the creative way as well. There is no right or wrong answer. There's no tick boxes, you've done it now. There is only that constant sense of playing with it, giving it a go, trying it, and lightening up, and not taking ourselves so seriously, because it isn't all that serious. Nothing actually is all that serious. And then we come to what we more conventionally think of. This is the third creative principle. So the first is lightening up, which is play. The second is letting go, which is rest. And the third then is leaping in. And that's what we kind of usually think of when we think about, going creative. We're thinking about the doing, the thing itself, the making of it, these steps you need to take in order to turn something that doesn't yet exist or exists only as a concept or an idea or a longing or a dream in your mind, and turning that into something that actually really does exist. And that's creative work that does that, and really core, absolutely, totally important, but no more important. And I'm laboring the point, I know, but it needs to be labored because we live in a world of bias, and we need to rebalance that bias. Creative work is no more important than creative play or creative rest, but it is really important. And what we'll be looking at here as we go through this segment of the creative principles around creative work is understanding the difference between decisions and doing. And the tool we use here and the practice we use here is free writing, and I'll get into that an awful lot more in another session shortly. But for now, just to say that free writing is writing that is fast, raw, and exact, but easy. I know a lot of you are familiar with it already. It essentially is a way of accessing the, if you want to call it the unconscious mind, the creative mind, the mind that is not uppermost, the mind that surfaces when we siphon off the surface thought. And it's a really useful practice. I do it every morning. I encourage everybody else to do it every morning. I've seen it make a huge difference in people's lives. All of these tools, I've seen and witnessed them, use them myself, and have seen them make a huge difference to all kinds of people, from writers and artists, the kind of people that you expect to be thinking and engaged with the creative process, but to people that you really don't expect to be engaged with the creative process, or who are using it in ways that you don't expect it to be used. So yes, we will look at the stages of taking an idea, taking a dream, taking a want, a desire, and turning it into an actual manifested thing in the real world. There are 7 of those stages. And when we're thinking about creative work, and we're thinking about the first point of getting going with that, is first of all the incubation and the intention and the investigation that's necessary before you actually begin the decisions, the drafting, the doing that will make it happen. So that is a whiz through some of the concepts that we're going to be talking about when we talk about mindful living. The show itself, I have somebody that I'm hoping, we haven't quite confirmed and pinned down the details, but somebody who's going to come in and talk and be our regular contributor to this section of the show, who is somebody who knows all about mindful eating, effortless exercise, and all the different aspects of living from the creative place, and how you make that happen, how you forge that connection with your own creative potential, and how you keep it in place. So I hope you've enjoyed this introduction. The full episode of the Mindful Living, episode number 3, will air on September 18th. And you can, as I said, get that by subscribing here on YouTube or any of the other various ways. You can find out more about Go Creative and my other writing, what I'm creating, and the Creativist Club, where we're going to be getting together as a group, all of us together to talk about these issues in detail and to help and support and motivate each other. It's all on ornaross.com, and next week we'll be looking at creative writing. So I hope you'll be along for that as well. And thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.